Let me be real with you for a second. You've been running for months now, maybe longer, and you've been doing the same thing, the same way, week after week, same routes, same pace, same playlist, same results, or worse, no results. And somewhere in the back of your mind, you already know why. You just don't want to say it out loud, so I'll say it for you. You've been training like a hobbyist but expecting results like an athlete. And that gap, that space between what you do and what you expect, muck, that's exactly where improvement goes to die. If you've been following this series, you already know you're not the same runner you were when we started. You've learned about aerobic base, you've learned about pacing, you've survived the part where most people quit. And now we're going to talk about something that might actually change the way you think about training forever. Because today we're going inside the world of Kenyan runners. Not to worship them, not to make you feel bad about your last 5K, but to find the things that actually translate, the things you can steal, adapt, and use starting this week. Hit subscribe if you haven't yet. Not because I'm asking you to, but because what's coming in the next few episodes is going to make everything click in a way it never has before. So, Kenya, the country that produces a completely absurd percentage of the world's greatest distance runners, Eliud Kipchoge, Kelvin Kiptum, Faith Kipyegon. It's not a coincidence. It's not genetics alone. And I'm going to say that again because people love to hide behind that excuse. It is not just genetics. Stop. Think about it. If it were purely genetic, why are the best Kenyan runners almost exclusively from one specific region? The Rift Valley. Specifically, the area around Eldoret and Eton. You don't see elite Kenyan runners coming from Nairobi at the same rate. Same country. Different results. So what's happening in that valley that isn't happening everywhere else? That's the real question. And the answer is uncomfortable for most recreational runners because it means the gap between you and them isn't about DNA. It's about habits, culture, environment, and a relationship with discomfort that most of us in the Western world have completely lost touch with. Let's start with the first thing that hits you when you study how Kenyan runners actually train. Volume. Pure, unapologetic mileage. The average runner in a training camp in Eton runs somewhere between 100 and 140 miles per week. A week. Before you freak out, no, I'm not telling you to do that. But here's what that number reveals. These athletes have built an aerobic engine over years and years of progressive work. They didn't start at 120 miles a week. They started as kids, running to school, running back, every single day, without thinking of it as training, without a GPS watch, without a heart rate monitor, without a coach telling them their zone 2 wasn't dialed in. Be honest with yourself. How much of your running actually feels like running? And how much of it feels like performing running for an audience, including yourself? That's the first truth about Kenyan training culture. Running is not a hobby over there. It's not something you schedule between work and Netflix. It's the center of the day. Everything, sleep, food, rest, conversation, orbits around the training. Now, obviously, you have a life, you have a job, a family, responsibilities. I'm not asking you to move to the Rift Valley. But here's what nobody really tells you about this. The principle behind that lifestyle is available to everyone. It's called intentionality. And you don't need 100 miles a week to apply it. You need to treat the miles you do run like they actually matter. Because right now, a lot of you are doing something I see constantly. You run 3 or 4 days a week, and on those days, you kind of jog through it. Not too hard, not too easy, just kind of medium. Every single run, medium effort. Medium heart rate, medium results. That's it. That's the whole problem summarized in one word, medium. The Kenyan training model, the actual structure behind the magic, is built on polarization. Most runs are genuinely easy, We're talking conversational pace, the kind of pace where you feel slightly embarrassed because it seems too slow. And then, a couple of times a week, they go hard, really hard. Track sessions, hill repeats, tempo runs that would make most recreational runners cry. But the key, the thing that makes the whole system work, is that the easy days are actually easy. Not medium. Easy. Here's what most runners do instead. They make the easy days medium, and then, on the hard days, they're already tired, so those become medium too. The entire week is just one long medium blur, and then they wonder why they've been running the same pace for 2 years straight. That's why you're not improving. That's it. That's the whole reason. Now let me deal with the excuses, because I know they're already forming in your head. But I don't have the time to run as much as they do. Okay, fair, but are you telling me you can't slow down on your easy days? Slowing down takes 0 extra time. 0. In fact, it's the opposite. It's doing less, physiologically, with the same amount of time. That excuse doesn't hold up. But running that slow feels weird. People will judge me. Ridiculous. Genuinely ridiculous. You're worried about what strangers think of your pace while you're trying to improve your cardiovascular system. The Kenyans running 6-minute miles as their easy pace don't care what you think of their pace. Why are you letting an imaginary audience control your training? But I've tried running slower, and I didn't feel like I was getting a workout. This one is interesting because it reveals something. You've associated the feeling of suffering with the feeling of improving, and those two things are not the same, not even close. The burning lungs, the heavy legs, the desperate gasp at the end of every run. That's not progress, that's just stress. Real adaptation, the kind that makes you faster over months and years, happens at low intensity. It happens when your body is recovering and rebuilding and making the oxygen delivery system stronger. The Kenyans know this. They protect their easy days like they're sacred, because they are. But here's what nobody really tells you about the Kenyan training model. It's not just the running, it's everything around the running. The recovery is treated with the same seriousness as the workout. In the training camps around Aitan, athletes sleep twice a day. They eat whole foods, ugali, vegetables, beans, lean protein. They walk slowly between sessions. They don't scroll through their phones for 4 hours after a hard track workout. They don't stay up until midnight and then drag themselves out for a tempo run on 4 hours of sleep. The training and the recovery are a package deal. You can't take one and throw away the other and expect the same results. Have you done this before? Run a hard session, felt great about it, and then completely torched your recovery with poor sleep, bad food, alcohol on the weekend, and then wondered why your next run felt terrible? Be honest with yourself. The second major principle you can steal from Kenyan training, and this one is genuinely underused, is the hill. Kenyan runners are raised on hills. The terrain around the Rift Valley is brutal, inclines everywhere, and instead of running around them or avoiding them, the culture embraces them. Hill repeats are a staple of serious training at every level, and the reason is beautiful in its simplicity. Running uphill forces proper form. It loads the glutes and hamstrings in a way flat running doesn't. It builds strength without the impact of speed work. It teaches your body to generate power, and when you come back down to flat ground, suddenly everything feels easier. Now tell me, how often do you actually seek out hills, or do you plot your routes specifically to avoid them because they're hard? I already know the answer for most of you. Here's the adaptation I want you to take away from this. You don't need Kenyan altitude, you don't need a training camp, but you do need hills. Once a week, find a hill that takes about 60 to 90 seconds to run up at hard effort. Run up it 6 to 8 times. Walk back down between efforts. That's it. That's a Kenyan-inspired hill session that costs you nothing, takes about 30 minutes, and will do more for your running economy than 3 months of flat, medium-effort jogging. The third thing, and this one is the most philosophical, so stay with me, is the group dynamic. In Kenya, elite runners don't train alone. They train in packs, and the pack has an unwritten set of rules. On easy days, everyone runs easy. No one tries to prove themselves on a recovery day. No one surges to the front to show off. But on hard days, the pack pushes each other to places they couldn't go alone. The suffering is shared. The accountability is real. There's no option to bail on a track session when 20 people are waiting for you at the line. Most recreational runners I know train entirely alone, which is fine for consistency. But it does something subtle over time. It removes the social pressure that makes hard sessions actually hard. When it's just you and your watch on a Tuesday morning, it's very easy to run 4 out of 8 intervals and call it a day. Nobody saw you quit. There's no consequence, but there's also no growth. Find a running group, or find one person who runs at your level and agrees to do one hard session a week together. The impact on your effort and your improvement will surprise you, I promise. There's just one detail that changes everything when we talk about what Kenyans do versus what we do. And it's not the mileage, it's not the altitude, it's not the hills. It's the belief that improvement is inevitable if you do the right things consistently over time. The culture in those training camps operates on a quiet, unshakable confidence that if you put the work in correctly, not desperately, not randomly, but correctly, your body will respond. There's no panic. There's no obsession with one breakthrough workout. There's just trust in the process. And that might be the thing most recreational runners in the Western world have the hardest time adopting. We want the hack. We want the shortcut. We want the one weird trick. We buy the shoes and the gels and the gadgets and the subscriptions, and then we still run medium effort for 30 minutes 3 times a week and wonder why our 5K time hasn't moved. Stop looking for the shortcut. The process is the shortcut. Polarize your training. Truly easy on easy days, truly hard on hard days. Add hills once a week. Find someone to suffer with. Protect your sleep and your food like your training depends on it, because it does. And then be patient. Trust your body, the way those runners in Eton trust theirs. You've come a long way in this series. Think back to the first episode. That version of you who was just trying to get through a mile without stopping. That person would not recognize what you're doing now. That's real progress. Not because you're running like a Kenyan, but because you're starting to think like one. One last thing. Take everything I said today about volume, intensity, hills, and recovery, and hold it in your mind, because next episode, we're going to flip the whole script. I'm going to ask you a question that sounds completely backwards, maybe even irresponsible. Can you actually run better by training less? Before you laugh, or before you get too excited, you need to hear what the science actually says, because the answer is not what you think it is, and it might be the most important thing you hear in this entire series. Do not skip that one. If this episode made you rethink anything about how you train, drop it in the comments. I want to know specifically, what's the one thing you're going to change this week? Easy days actually easy? Hills? Finding a training partner? Tell me. And if you haven't subscribed yet, now's the time, because the next episode is one you genuinely don't want to miss.